The Batman movie is finally out now. Everybody's going to go see it. I already seen it already. So let's go ahead and give my thoughts on it. Alright, so I'm going to be talking about the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. So this is basically going to be my thoughts and my review on this movie. So first things first, I gotta hand it to Matt Reeves for giving us this Batman movie. This is by far probably going to be one of my favorite Batman movies and probably one of the best Batman movies. What I'm probably going to be doing is doing a Batman ranking video of all the movies and probably some other Batman related ranking videos coming soon to the channel, so be on the lookout for those. But I gotta hand it to Matt Reeves for bringing us this movie. I gotta say off the bat, this movie was incredible, awesome, epic, and amazing. It really was. I really highly enjoyed this movie. I love it, and I enjoyed it so much. But originally, this movie was going to star Ben Affleck. This was going to be a continuation of Ben Affleck's Batman, and he was actually going to be directing it and, starring as the Batman in this movie. But I gotta give it up to Ben Affleck because he actually stepped down from directing duties and handed it over to Matt Reeves so that he could be able to get a better performance from his Batman. And then ultimately he stepped away from the project and not going to be Batman. And Matt Reeves was still as the director, and they started to develop a whole new story and get a new Batman for this movie. Now, I believe Matt Reeves was a great choice in getting for a director. He directed most notably the Planet of the Apes trilogy that was recently throughout the 2010s, and I gotta say, for a director that could do what he did with those movies, I was definitely on board and definitely going to be with it on him directing this Batman movie, because those movies were phenomenal. The Planet of the Apes trilogy was an awesome trilogy, awesome movie, and as far as storytelling goes and just the certain things he was able to do in those movies was incredible, honestly. So I was definitely on board with Matt Reeves taking over directing responsibilities for this movie. Throughout this Batman movie, I gotta hand it to him for getting some great shots and great cinematography throughout the whole movie, especially during that one flight scene in the movie where it almost looks like it was like a VR kind of experience. And he actually did say that VR was actually one of the things that inspired him to do some of these shots like that. So it was very awesome, incredible shots that he got throughout the movie. Great cinematography all around. And one thing I did like was that it wasn't an origin story, I kind of did like that it wasn't an origin story. We already got Batman's origin a lot of times throughout all these movies that we've been getting for Batman stuff. So I'm glad that it wasn't another origin story, but it was early on in Batman's career of being Batman and being protector of Gotham. And I like that it was early on. This was barely 2 years after he started becoming Batman. Basically just still trying to get his footing in, and trying to get a hold of stuff like that and still develop his skills as Batman. So I like that it was still early on Batman, but it was an origin story, which I did like about that. So talking about some of him trying to develop as Batman, honestly, this movie didn't have too much of a character development, but somehow it still worked, even though there was not too much of a character development. You get Batman in the beginning of the movie, he doesn't change too much or too drastically, at least to the end of the movie. This movie takes place within a week or so, 6 to 7 days or so. So not really going to get much character development, but somehow it does work in this movie. And I know some movies kind of drastically try to push character development and stuff like that, but for this one it didn't really push character development too much, but honestly it works for the movie, and I got handed to them for being able to tell a story like that. I got handed to Robert Pattinson though. I wouldn't say I had my doubts, but I was not going to prejudge him. Everybody was prejudging him, of course, because of Twilight, and I was one of the ones that was not going to prejudge him just because he did Twilight. I mean, I haven't really seen his other movies, but a lot of people talk about good things about his other movies that he's been in, that he's a good actor and all that. So I wasn't really going to prejudge on his Batman or his portrayal of Batman until I actually see him on the screen. And I gotta give it up to Robert Pattinson, hand it to him, that he played such an excellent and amazing Batman in this movie. I will say though that Bruce Wayne wasn't heavily featured in this movie. That's one thing that was not weird to me, but it was maybe wanted a little bit more of was like Bruce Wayne is not really heavily featured in this movie. You probably get like 85% Batman in this movie and maybe 10 to 15% Bruce Wayne. So they really have Bruce Wayne in the background and like not really showing too much of him. This is basically Batman, Batman, Batman. This basically was Robert Pattinson when it was in the Batman suit. Pretty much a majority of the movie, and you get a few scenes of him trying to play Bruce Wayne, but you don't get much from those scenes as Bruce Wayne. But nonetheless, him as Batman was honestly incredible and amazing. I have to give it up to Robert Pattinson on that. He did an excellent job, in my opinion. Just overall, the overall presence that he had, like as Batman, there was one thing I was actually noticing throughout the movie was you could actually hear the suit. Like, the suit's kind of like a tactical look. And that's one thing I do like about this Batman was he was more tactical. Like his suit was tactical and it looked like a suit that you could like make at home, and some of his weapons and gadgets and stuff like that were like pretty much like they seem homemade and just seems like everyday people could probably make them, as compared to like maybe like Christopher Nolan or Christian Bale's Batman, where that Batman looked like you needed money to be Batman. Like that Batman, Christian Bale's Batman, looked like you need money to be Batman with all the gadgets and stuff like that and the stuff he had. But this Batman, one thing I did like was that it's more tactical. So from his suit to his weapons, gadgets and stuff, everything looked more homemade. It looked like somebody could actually make this stuff, But going back to the presence of Robert Pattinson as Batman, what I was talking about was in a lot of scenes and a lot of the movie that I noticed that you can actually hear the suit moving. Like there's a little bit of rubber and stuff like that, and just some of the plates and armor on the suit. You can actually hear him when he's like moving around and stuff like that. You can kind of hear the suit. So if that was like more aesthetic choice to kind of increasing the sound on the movements that he made with his suit, and also too there was a lot of scenes where he like lingers and just looks at people and stuff like that. Like for scenes that literally had no talking or like just him lingering and just looking around and stuff like that, sort of getting that detective stuff going in, especially in the detective scenes. He's just lingering, he's looking around, looking at stuff, looking at people, and it really spoke like just the overall like facial expressions, from the eyes and stuff like that, just having just the character and just having that presence in those scenes like that, where it's just non-speaking scenes, just lingering, looking around, stuff like that, and he's like calculating and doing his detective work and stuff like that. And speaking of detective work, this has got to be the most detective work we ever seen in any Batman movie ever, and I love it. This was the stuff I've been waiting for, more detective work from Batman, because he is one of the world's greatest detectives. So it's like we kind of been lacking in some of that stuff where he wasn't really doing detective work in other Batman movies, but we finally get it in this one. And honestly, I gotta say, I loved it. I loved every minute of it when he was doing his detective stuff and detective work, just looking at clues, doing stuff like that, and especially when it came to like the riddles, him solving the riddles within like a few seconds and catching stuff that other people didn't catch, in crime scenes and stuff like that. And I saw it a couple of times, like he catches something, and like somebody will follow him, or a photographer will follow him and they'll be like, oh, it'll almost be like, oh, I didn't catch that before, let me get a picture of that, or oh, I didn't catch that before, let me get that for evidence and stuff like that. And you kind of notice that stuff like that he was catching stuff that other people wasn't really. So I gotta say, that was some great detective work that I've seen in the movie, and I highly enjoyed it. It was so amazing seeing that detective side of Batman finally full-fledged out. So gotta commend them on that. And talk about more about the characters I got handed to them. There was great chemistry between Batman and Commissioner Gordon. Honestly, it really seemed like they were like actual partners and working together. So I really liked the dynamic between them, and it just seemed like, Batman finds something, or he's like he thinks it's something, and he's calling up Commissioner Gordon. He's telling him, I found something, let's check it out, things like that. And they're pretty much acting like they're almost like partners in this movie, which I did like, and I liked the dynamic between them, and they really were acting like partners, trying to solve this case, trying to find out who's doing all the murders and stuff like that. So it really was great. to have that in the movie. And also too, the dynamic between Batman and Catwoman was honestly pretty good. Zoe Kravitz, Robert Pattinson definitely had great chemistry on screen with their characters of Catwoman and Batman, and honestly, it really shows in the movie. I really enjoyed the chemistry between them, and the dynamic they had was honestly really awesome and really good. It got handed up to Zoe Kravitz. She played an excellent Catwoman in this movie. Honestly, really, really good. I really enjoyed her in the role of Catwoman. And speaking of like Penguin too, Colin Farrell. If you had said Colin Farrell, like let's say you didn't know that Colin Farrell was going to be in this movie, or was like or going to be playing a Penguin at all, and you had no news of that, and then I'd be like, and you told me that Colin Farrell was that, like after or something, I would have been surprised to see that Colin Farrell was the Penguin if I had no like actual prior information to that of him being the Penguin and stuff and being in the movie at all. I would have been surprised myself, because he literally transformed himself, like the prosthetics and stuff like that, and the way he was just playing a role, he completely transformed himself, and I gotta hand it to him. He played such an excellent and amazing role, even though he wasn't like really one of the main forefront characters, and you know, he was kind of in the background. You see him in a couple of scenes here and there and just hearing about him and stuff like that, but he still was able to play an excellent role as the Penguin, even though he wasn't in the main forefront of this movie and one of the main characters necessarily, but playing a background character more. He still was able to kind of steal the scenes he was in and just play an excellent and amazing role as the Penguin. And going on to the Riddler was amazing. This was amazing villain in the movie. Just the overall, like his planning, his thinking, and just everything that about the Riddler was amazing. Honestly, one of the best villains in a Batman movie. Honestly, just everything he was doing, everything, his plans and everything that he was doing was honestly so awesome to see it put into action, and just everything, seeing everything like that together. And honestly, the Riddler was an amazing villain in this movie. Such an amazing villain in this movie. And just, you know, I can't say enough good things about it. One thing I would say, though, that was a little weird to me was this Batman seemed really invincible. Like, he really seemed invincible. He literally was, like, taking machine gun fire straight to the chest and not really taking too much damage. Or, like, if he did take damage, he would literally get right back up and kind of, like, shrug it off and stuff like that. Which is, you know, it's not completely bad, but it's like, I mean, come on, it's like he was basically invincible in the movie, and it was like, really, he's going to be able to get up right after he got blasted with machine guns and literally took a bomb to the face also with no scarring or anything to, like, show for it. Like, he literally got bombed in the face, was able to get straight back up, and I don't know, it was just a little weird to me that he was like overly powered, overly invincible and stuff like that, and just getting right back up after an injury, which I get if you're trying to make it seem like, yeah, he's invincible, he could take on anybody and stuff like that, but it's like, if you're trying to keep him in realism, it's like, he's going to be hurt after that and stuff like that, and, you know, it's going to be pretty bad if that stuff is like actually happening, you know. But I mean, it's not too much of a big complaint. It was just something that I was kind of looking at and thinking it was kind of weird and stuff like that. That he was like overly invincible and stuff like that. But I mean, it's not like a complete turnoff or anything like that, you know. And talking about the action, I gotta say they had some amazing action scenes in this movie. I will say though, there wasn't really too many scenes that were like stuck out or anything like that. Like, they were all great action scenes, but it wasn't like you could like pick a specific scene that was like really, oh, like this scene was more action than this scene, or this scene was as action or more scene, but stuff like that. But honestly, all great action, still all great action scenes. A lot of people do talk about the car chase though, that was probably the best scene. A lot of people have said that, and I would say that is that is a good scene. I did highly enjoy the car chase scene where he's chasing Penguin in the Batmobile and stuff like that. And honestly, this Batmobile was awesome. Like, I was a little kind of not into it at first, just seeing clips of it and just like seeing the design and stuff like that. But it's like going along with Robert Pattinson's Batman the way he is where his Batman is a little bit more tactical and it's like more homemade kind of stuff, not really using too much money, as you can see. But it does, this Batmobile, I will say, does actually kind of go along with his Batman. And then finally getting the Batmobile in action, seen in action in the movie, and just seeing that scene where like he's the Penguin is like running off and running away, driving away and stuff like that. And you just hear the roar, like you hear the roar of an engine of the Batmobile, and it's like, wow, that's like awesome. Like hearing it and stuff like that, you literally got like chills and stuff, and just like hearing it come to life and roar to life, and just seeing that one scene where he's just chasing them, he's trying to loop through the traffic and stuff like that, literally jumping off in a ramp and like explosion too and stuff like that. Honestly, it was a great scene, I gotta say, from seeing the Batmobile. The Batmobile wasn't really used that much. I think it was only used for that one scene. Other than that, Batman was basically riding on a motorcycle from place to place, basically. So that was pretty cool to see that too. You know, just he was basically on a motorcycle throughout the whole movie, except for that one scene where he actually was using a Batmobile. So you know, we got that scene with the Batmobile, which was pretty cool and pretty awesome to see in the movie. But talking about the action and stuff like that, this is a PG-13 movie. It's a PG-13 movie, but I could see how they maybe cut it down a little bit from a rated R, because this, like, even though it's a PG-13 movie, they really pushed the limits of a PG-13 rating. Like, this movie was like actually brutal. Like, I actually thought was like, damn, this was actually kind of brutal, and they're actually pushing the limits of a PG-13 rating. Like, barely, like, there was like beatings and just him punching and fighting people, and just like the Riddler in the opening scene, he had like this he was bashing this guy and stuff like that. And I think the reason why they put it as PG-13 was they didn't show any blood or anything like that. So they really did push the limits of a PG-13 rating, which I did like. It was definitely intense in some parts and just not gruesome, but like just really pushing the limits of a PG-13 rating. And honestly, great action. I like the action. I like the way they're pushing the limits, and you know, I guess you kind of get a little bit of a slight horror effect too. A little bit. I mean, it's not like scary or anything like that, but you get like a slight horror element, I guess, to it. I don't know if they're trying to go for that, but a lot of people are saying it was like inspiration. That the inspiration behind this movie was like the Zodiac movie and like Seven, and honestly, you could tell from that in this movie. It was definitely kind of like those movies in a way, and just getting some of that and just some of the aspects of the way Riddler was doing stuff. And you could really tell that those movies were kind of inspiration to this movie. Another thing that I did like about the movie was that we got these voiceovers. We got a couple of voiceovers, and it'll be like Robert Pattinson, you know, he's doing a voiceover, like talking about his thoughts and stuff like that. And it'll be like over like scenes of like him driving, or it'd be like scenes of like showing Gotham and stuff like that. And I kind of do like those voiceovers. You know, it's just like you see, it's showing scenes of him driving around or showing scenes of Gotham, and you get these voiceovers. Not like a lot. There's just like a couple here and there in the movie, and you get these voiceovers and just him like thinking and calculating and just telling his thoughts on stuff. And honestly, it was a great addition in the movie, I thought. Oh, honestly, I do like this movie. I absolutely like this movie. It'd probably be one of my favorite Batman movies. I won't say it's absolutely the best Batman movie, but I will say that if you could come up with an argument onto why it's the best Batman movie, I'll definitely hear you out on it, because I could see an argument, depending on whoever watches it and depending on how they take the movie. I could see an argument made for this being the best Batman movie. And I'm sure some people will be saying that this is the best Batman movie but for me personally, I mean, it's not the best. It's definitely high up there. It's definitely within the top 3 of like Batman movies, I would say. But I'm not gonna say it's the best exactly. For me, The Dark Knight is still the best overall Batman movie for me. But this one is definitely going to be in the top 3, maybe the second or third. At least it's definitely one of the best Batman movies. It is. It's definitely one of the best Batman movies, and it's probably going to be one of my favorites too for years to come. But we'll just have to see how that holds up for the coming years and all that. So as of right now, it is one of the best Batman movies. One of my favorites. It's going to be one of my favorites. And honestly, overall, I absolutely love this movie and the way they took the direction of it and everything about it. So definitely cannot wait for sequel installments to this movie, and hopefully they're just as good as this one. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Matt Reeves and the rest of the Batman crew are going to be doing with these movies. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you've seen the Batman movie already, let me know what you thought about it and what would you rank it as, if it's one of the best or if you didn't like it. Let me know. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to be a part of Team Legendary, all you got to do is subscribe and turn notifications on so you know I post another video. Hope you all have an awesome day. And remember, be legendary.